Hello everyone, I'm Tim from Tim Does Level Design and welcome to lesson 5 of my beginner course in video game level design. Now that we're familiar with our 3 C's, the enemies we can encounter in our game, our level design ingredients, and are starting to know our way around in Unreal Engine a bit, at least to the point where we can build ourselves some simple test levels, I think it's time we begin the adventure of designing our very first quote-unquote real level for our game. But imagine if I were just to say, okay, now design a level. You might find yourself staring at a duplicated template map in your engine or at a blank page in front of you, not exactly knowing what to do next. This is because designing in a vacuum is more or less impossible. I don't usually see design restrictions as a problem to overcome, but as a means to drive creativity. They give you an anchoring point of where to begin, but also finding a way to create something interesting within those restrictions, and the solutions you find during those iterations are often what makes something unique and interesting. For our level design process, let's assume we're working in a larger game studio, and before we start working on our level, we're already provided with a quest design document that has a number of things defined for us to work with. I created this mock-up quest design document, or QDD for short, on draw.io, which is a free alternative to software like Miro, which we've seen in the previous episodes. I've added a link to this QDD in the description down below, so you can follow along and explore it at your own pace on your own screen. When opening the link from the description, you'll be prompted with a Google Drive download link, where we can download the draw.io file. With the file downloaded, we can go to the draw.io website, which is app.diagrams.net. I'll select Save Diagrams to Device and Open Existing Diagram. We can select the file we just downloaded, and now we can not only view the diagram at our own pace, but also make changes and save them to our device. With that out of the way, let's take a look at the QDD itself. The title of the document is QDD Quest 6, the Necromancer. Instead of starting with an initial tutorial level, I've opted for us to create a level that's played towards the end of our short game, to give us a bit more freedom with elements we can play around with. We can see that the document is split into 5 different sections based on the level areas. The way a document is structured and which information is displayed can vary a lot depending on the type of game that you're creating, as well as the workflow of the particular studio or team. Here we can imagine that our art director already had a high-level vision of the settings and thematics for this level, and has commissioned some concept art from the concept art department. In this case, I used AI to generate some rough representation. Concept art like this is generally used for inspiration and to convey an intention of setting and mood, and not for you as a level designer to try and copy one-to-one. In a larger team, a quest designer has likely synced with at least the art, game design and narrative teams to create a high-level blueprint of what the quest should contain and set up this document. Though regardless of team size, depending on the team workflow, it's also very possible that you as level designer will be expected to create such documents. For the first area, the woods, we can see that there's already an intended duration defined. Usually, this is just a ballpark figure of the expected time an average player will take to complete this section. Speedrunning tends to be much faster, and some players will take a longer time. We've also been provided some narrative context. Our hero, with a still undefined name, has been requested to rid some poor villagers of a necromancer that has set up shop in the castle ruin nearby, and has been plaguing the villagers with their evil sorcery. In this first section, starting out in a forested area, our player must traverse the woods on the way to the castle. And our design department has expressed they want the emphasis to be on platforming. This doesn't mean we can't have enemies or puzzle ingredients, but they shouldn't be, let's say, the main course for this area. At the bottom, we see the expressed wish of double jump to be featured here. This could very well be due to, for example, the player unlocking the double jump ability in the level before this one, and the design team wanting to give the player the opportunity to get familiar with and practice this ability. The rest of the enemies, key LDIs and key abilities are still to be defined by us. Moving into the cemetery area, we're still just traversing this section in search of the castle. We can see requested skeletons as enemies and dominant gameplay as combat. This could be mandated by narrative or art direction to reinforce the cemetery setting. In Area 3, the castle courtyard, our objective is to enter the castle, with dominant gameplay being puzzle. We'll need to come up with some type of obstacle for the player to overcome here. We've been provided with some additional narrative information as well. The castle used to belong to a powerful mage, renowned for his teleportation abilities. Perhaps his secrets are still to be found within the castle walls. The first thing that comes to mind here for me in a castle setting is a tall mage's tower, at the top of which we'll learn the teleport ability. This would be a great justification for some additional verticality in the castle interior. In a project, this could often be a good moment to sync with the art and narrative departments, and possibly request some additional concept art for you to use as reference. The first objective in the area is to find the spellbook, after which we must find the necromancer. This means we'll need to block the player from progressing until they presumably have unlocked the teleport ability through finding the spellbook. We're free to use any combination of gameplay we'd like here, without emphasizing any one in particular. Though with the timed gem gate being introduced as a new LDI, I think we can find a way to set this up so the player will need the teleport ability to be able to unlock the gate. Though I feel like introducing a new LDI on top of a new ability might be a bit too much all at once, possibly resulting in the player getting stuck or overwhelmed. I feel it's better to introduce the new LDI earlier on as a key LDI for the Courtyard puzzle, and then find a way to add complexity by combining it with the teleport ability later on. Before reaching Area 5, we still have a platforming heavy section where we must find the necromancer. I think this is an excellent way to create some setups that require or greatly benefit from the teleport ability, giving the player the opportunity to get familiar with their new skill. The final area that remains, the throne room, is the boss fight finale of our level against the necromancer. We'll want to make a unique setup with the necromancer that isn't over in the blink of an eye, and ideally requires the player to use their new teleport ability to come out on top. And not to forget, at the beginning of the document we have an overview of the game elements the player is already familiar with, as well as some starting conditions that reflect the player's progression and previous events when arriving at Quest 6. Now that we have an overview of what is expected of us for the design of this level, for this lesson's homework, I would like you to fill out the QDD sections of enemies encountered, key LDIs, and key abilities as well as you can. These are simply a first proposal that will need to be tested, and you will be able to change later on if needed. Based on these decisions, create a new gym for Quest 6, where you can try out some combinations of the abilities, LDIs and enemies that you've chosen for the different areas. You might even be able to reuse some of the combinations that you've created as homework for the previous lessons. We've now made the first steps in designing our first real video game level. Please do like and subscribe, and hit that notification bell down below to get notified when the next video goes live. Thank you very much for watching, and see you in the next video.